Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a literally epic 43-year timeline of survival known as the 42-year ghost. We're going to dive deep into how a tragic split-second trigger pull on day one actually evolved into one of the most profound testaments to human resilience ever recorded. It's a story about a virus, for sure, but more importantly, it's about what survives when absolutely everything else is stripped away. Okay, picture this. We're dropping right into the terrifying, absolute chaos of New Arcadia's fall. The world is basically ending under this blood-red sunset. Plunging directly into the madness, you hear, "Contact! Hold fire!" That was the frantic shout from Captain Elias Kane. His Delta squad was retreating through a completely shattered financial district, their nerves just absolutely frayed after 3 weeks of continuous fighting against this unstoppable infection. And in this exact moment, a split-second decision was made, one that would fiercely haunt 2 people for the next 4 decades.
Section 1. The Fall of Arcadia.
So out of the Vale Genomics Tower emerges Dr. Sophia Vale. She's the lead researcher of Project Elysium. But here's the wild twist. She is infected. Her white coat is covered in blood, but she's strangely lucid. She isn't shambling around to attack. She's actually running toward Delta Squad, desperately seeking help. She looks at Elias like he's salvation. But despite her desperate plea, and despite Elias literally barking the order to hold fire, the squad's panic just wins out against the advancing horde. Instinct takes over, and Elias shoots Dr. Sophia Vale low, hitting her in the right thigh and leaving her behind in the ruins as his squad is forced to retreat.
Which brings us to Section 2, 42 years of watching.
Now, you might be thinking, well, that's the end of Sophia. Actually, no. She didn't die that day. See, an experimental retrovirus she'd been testing on herself kind of acted as a preemptive shield for her neural tissue. It warped the plague, leaving her body decaying and filled with this gnawing hunger, but crucially, keeping fragments of her mind intact. So, she became a ghost. While Elias spent the first decade building the highly fortified Fort Sentinel up on a northern peninsula, Sophia dragged her ruined leg through brutal winters just to follow him. For decades, she maintained a silent vigil in the frozen tree line, watching him from a jagged boulder just beyond the minefields. It's absolutely wild to compare their lives during this time. On one hand, you've got Elias. He's rising to colonel, physically guarding humanity behind these fortified walls, but mentally, he's carrying this crushing survivor's guilt over the woman he shot. And on the other side, Sophia, a ghost battling the monster within herself out in the wilderness. She hunted wild animals instead of humans just to survive, and, incredibly, she left these ghost gifts for Elias near his patrol routes. Little things like heart-shaped stones and stolen red flowers. And Elias, he never let his soldiers disturb them.
42. For 42 immense, literally excruciating years, she anchored her sanity entirely to his face. Think about that time frame. She memorized his patrol shifts, the sound of his voice carrying on the wind. During the absolute worst nights, when the infection's hunger made her want to just claw at her own skin, she actually bit through her own tongue to keep from screaming his name and drawing the infected horde to his walls. I mean, that is an almost incomprehensible level of willpower and devotion.
Moving on to Section 3, the Phoenix Serum Cure.
So, the whole story dramatically flips when a long-range recon team is out in this brutal autumn storm about 200 miles south of the fort. They stumble upon a starving, half-frozen Sophia and bring her back to Fort Sentinel in chains. There, they administer the Phoenix Serum. A team of scientists had actually finally cracked a cure. And this wasn't just, a temporary suppression. It was a total reversal, using nanites and targeted CRISPR technology to actively unwind the prion chains. Now, most subjects still died from it. But because Sophia had that partial natural resistance from her own retrovirus all those years ago, the brutal reversal miraculously takes hold. But it was not an easy process. We're talking 6 agonizing weeks that literally stripped her voice raw. The medical staff fully expected just another violent failure. But instead, she opens her eyes and whispers, "Tell Colonel Kane, the ghost says thank you." The staff, they just thought it was delirium. They had absolutely no idea of the immense history resting in that hospital bed.
All right, Section 4, a second life together.
Sophia then goes through 11 grueling months of physical therapy, skin grafts, speech therapy, the whole shebang. To hide her true identity and the sheer terror it might cause the camp, she adopts the alias Dr. Lena Harper. Biologically, the cure left her at 43 years old, though she walks with a permanent limp from that day one gunshot. She starts teaching history and virology to the kids in the camp, And quietly, so quietly, she re-enters the 70-year-old Elias's life. They share herbal tea, he teaches her how to shoot again, and they slowly fall in love. It all culminates in this profound first kiss up in a watchtower during a fierce storm. Just two scarred souls finally finding some light.
Which leads right into Section 5, revealing the impossible truth.
About 16 months into her new life, we hit this massive emotional roadblock. I mean, how do you even begin to tell a man that you are the monster he shot 42 years ago? Sitting by a lantern on a cliff path, right on the exact anniversary of the fall, Elias tells her he wants to retire to spend his remaining time with her. And Sophia realizes, right then, she can't keep the secret any longer. She has to unburden this impossible truth.
So she sets the stage. First, Sophia asks Elias just to listen. Absolute silence. Then she bravely recounts every single harrowing detail. The gunshot at the genomics tower, the sheer horror she saw in his eyes back then, and how her mind clung to his face as a lifeline. She reveals her 42 years of watching from the boulder, the ghost gifts, the starvation. And finally, Elias connects this completely impossible story to the permanent scar on her right thigh, the one he'd noticed but never questioned. He's suddenly forced to reconcile the gentle woman he loves with the actual nightmare he has carried for decades. And his reaction? Wow, it's just everything. This hardened colonel, a guy who literally held humanity together through hell, drops to his knees in sheer awe and openly weeps. He realizes that a creature that should have wanted to tear him apart instead spent 40 years watching him from the dark out of pure love. He pulls her in and says, "My ghost, my miracle. All this time I was protecting the walls, and you were protecting what was left of me." The crushing weight of his 4-decade guilt is instantly replaced by sheer, unadulterated wonder.
Section 6. Love Beyond a Fall.
In the end, Sophia's true identity remains a closely guarded secret. I mean, the camp really didn't need another legend to be terrified of, right? Elias retires just 6 months later, and they move into this small, quiet house by the sea. They plant a garden, he carves wooden figures, and beautifully, they occasionally hike back up to that deactivated minefield, to the exact jagged boulder where she once watched him from the dark. On the 43rd anniversary of the fall, looking just like the night the world ended, they renew their vows on the cliffs.
Love, the rarest cure of all. What this explainer really shows us is that, yeah, sure, a brilliant scientific serum actively reversed the physical virus intervenes. But it was an incredibly stubborn, enduring love that cured a lifetime of guilt for Elias and kept Sophia's humanity intact for 42 years out in the wilderness. It was a love that simply refused to die, even when the body did. So I'm going to leave you with this lingering thought. If you were forced to watch the one you love from the dark for an entire lifetime, battling your own inner demons every single day, would your humanity endure? It's a profound question about the unbelievable power of forgiveness, the sheer strength of the human mind, and what it truly takes to hold on to our light in the absolute darkest of times. Thanks for joining me on this explainer today, and hey, keep seeking out the incredible stories that show us what we are truly capable of.